And welcome back, footy fans, to another episode of Donnie's Disposals. I am your host, Coach Donnie Hess here. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we are closer and closer to the end of the footy season, and the off season brings the chance to have some chats, to talk with people connected with footy. And you guys know I'm always looking for fun, new people to sit down and have a chat. And today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very, very happy to say I have the privilege of talking with a wonderful young announcer out of South Australia who I had the luxury of listening to this particular season through the SANFL, and I had to have a chat with her. Thankfully, she said yes to hopping on the podcast. So I want to bring in from SANFL now a brand new caller, and just recently had her chance to hop on Wharf Radio. We have Edon Abbot hopping on. Edon, it is wonderful to have you on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me and really looking forward to our chat today.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, Eden, before we get into the footy, this is a footy podcast. I like finding out a little bit about the person, not just the football, because I mean, the football is going to be the majority of what we talk about. But just really quickly, could you tell us just a bit about yourself outside of the game of football?
Yes, so I work at Channel 7, so it's a news service, a news station, as an assistant producer and social media. So that's what I do in terms of work. Also, I do quite a bit of running. It's more started as a hobby and now just picking up a good way to get out and exercise. And a bit of a random one, I play the bagpipes. So haven't picked them up in a while, but definitely from 5 years ago, I was quite competitive and involved with that.
Well, that's fantastic. As somebody that my favorite soccer team is in Scotland, I love the good old-fashioned bagpipe. That's fantastic. Absolutely love it. So let's
Yeah,
hop into it. Let's hop
they're
into
not
it.
quite.
Absolutely love it. Let's get stuck into it. Let's talk about why everybody loves this channel, and that is the football. So really quickly, before we get into the minutia, what is your favorite part about the sport of Aussie rules football?
I would say just the competitiveness. There's no sport, I don't think, quite in the world where people are going so hard at it to get the ball, win the ball, and the crowd, how involved everyone gets, and also how it brings people together. And I think that's especially what the AFLW does. You see how much of a fan filled and family day out it is, and how it celebrates everyone. So I think football and sport in general has that ability to bring people together.
Yep, no, 100% agree with you. Absolutely love it. So I don't have this luxury being an American. It wasn't ingrained in daily life. And being a South Australian, I know footy is one of the biggest things around. So I must ask this. What is your earliest football memory?
So Auskick was pretty much, I swear, probably most kids did it.
Hmm.
So probably 5 years old, and that was probably a year. But especially for women, there wasn't much to go further and progress from there. So it was more in year 11 at school where I told my parents, look, I want to play. And they're like, no, you're going to get injured. And especially with the bagpipes, and because I was competing,
Hmm.
damaging an arm would rule me out of that.
Hmm.
And so I finally convinced this is what I want to do. Sure enough, second game in, broke my collarbone. And so that didn't quite go down to plan. I played the Ceilidh, which is a big like Scottish performance at our school, with a sling. So arm in a sling, bagpipes wasn't the most convenient way. Um, but then a couple years after that, I decided now's my chance. Don't worry, mum and dad, I'll be fine. And then I did a bulging disc in my back. So I feel like every time I think about football and trying to actually get involved, I'd always get injured.
Oh boy, it's like you spoke it into existence, unfortunately. I'm sorry about that,
Yeah,
Eden. That's absolutely that absolutely stinks. So it actually answers my next question. So you did play. So I'll kind of go off that is what position did you play? I know unfortunately the injury list tends to be where you tended to be a little bit more, but what position did you play?
yes, on the wing. So especially with my running, more of
Hmm.
a long distance runner, so that's probably where it suited me quite a bit. I think I had a bit of a run through the midfield when I was a bit young in year 11, and that's what actually led to me getting that injury. I was dispossessed and chicken winged
Oh boy.
and dumped into the ground like I was a
Hmm.
shovel. So I remember it happening at Prospect Oval quite well. But yeah, wing was probably the best place. They tried to put me in defence a couple times and I was useless at that because I just loved running, loved getting the ball and just like going straight down the line.
Not a problem at all. I know up here with my coaching ability, we actually had a long distance runner who is our wing, and I loved it because I could put him on one side and I would very rarely have to take him off. So I know that sometimes coaches absolutely love that when you have a good conditioned runner to go on the wing. So all right, as a South Australian, as an Adelaide girl that you are, we got to talk to SANFL really quickly. Do you support a SANFL club? And if not, have you ever come close to picking a club?
Not really. And that feels un-South Australian of me because especially with what we've got in the SANFL, such a strong league. Because I more grew up, my sister did gymnastics and I kind of followed in her footsteps. So I was more just gymnastics and that's where I'd be on the weekends. So wasn't going out to games and all that. But my family, like, they're connected more towards Norwood and the Redlegs.
Hmm.
So, I mean, it's not that I'm connected with them or barrack for them, but at the moment I'm like, oh, I'll go on Sturt side.
Hmm. No, it's fine. In fact, I will sit I've sit here and I've said it a couple of times on the podcast is that there are times I wished I didn't choose a side because it would make
Mm,
covering the game sometimes a little bit easier because you don't have that soft spot or that little bit of part of you that wants to barrack for your side.
yeah.
So I've been happy with myself when I cover the Sandful, the Waffle, and the VFL is that I don't. I have avidly told them, I said, I enjoy all the clubs. Like I'm trying to be neutral. I'm trying
Mm,
there are clubs I have soft spots for because I have friends or mates or people that I have met who have been very kind to me. I know the Norwood Footy Club for the longest time had it with Ali Farrell and Brad Farrell. I know both of them very, very well. Great people. Steph Simmons, their captain,
mm-hmm.
is also with the Norwood Footy Club. Jess Bates has become a very good friend of mine when she was with Glenelg. Kiana Lee, who's now with Glenelg now. So
Mm,
I have many of people who I'm connected with who are part of the Sanfil W. So I have to tell myself many times that I can't barrack for a team. I will barrack for
yeah.
people and I'll barrack for sides that they're part of. So I really try to do that. So I kind of like that I think it does kind of takes away any biases that you don't have to. So I'll ask this. It'll go on a little bit with as we kind of said is. Do you feel it's a little bit easier for your job that you don't support a side because you don't have to worry about a little bit of bias coming out in your calls?
Yes, I do think it helps a lot, especially because certain callers you can tell they've got their teams and they almost have to keep that inner fan at bay.
Hmm.
And well, that's fine. It's just easier to call the play, and it's more you get to experience it like you are a fan, and as it's happening, call it unbiased, which is like especially with AFL, you can get certain commentators who are Victorian bias or certain, and it's quite clear. So
Hmm.
if I'm just on the fence and just celebrating football, I think that's the best way to be.
Nope, I will not disagree with you on that. And trust me, I've had many a rant of some of the callers on there that are very Victorian biased. Maybe it's the fact I'm a Swans fan that I kind of attach to the interstate supporters argument when it comes to Victorian fans. So no, 100% with you. So we've kind of like I said, we've talked about it.
Mhm.
You are a commentator for Sanfil now, and as you said, you work for Channel 7 as well. So kind of run me through this journey because as you said, you as a youngster you wanted to play, parents didn't want you because of your bagpipes, and then you played a little bit year 11. So how did it go from no longer playing injury list superstar that you are? Um, how was the transition to
Thank you.
commentator? What got you there?
I always wanted to be involved in football, and I think that was really evident since I really wanted to play SANFL. And you might know Jess Sedinary. I was doing quite
Hmm.
a lot of work with her in terms of one-on-ones, and she was like my PT, trying to push into the SANFL, even though I wasn't on a list, or maybe if I could get a look somewhere, trying, because they've got like come and try days with the SANFL. It's a bit different to like being scouted,
Hmm.
which you can be, but especially building up the SANFL W, it was through that way. But when I was injured, it was just like I knew I wanted to be in the media, and getting my journalism degree at uni, I was looking up online. I wanted to do some work experience with the SANFL because I'm like, you beauty, that would be perfect. That's my football fix. Back of the grandstand where I can't get injured. I thought, you know what, I'm going to register my interest for what popped up as a commentary, just like a register. And if you're keen, it was literally a couple weeks later, I got on the headset and it was like, off you go. And that's probably the best way to learn, is in the deep end. And then we had such great mentors around us that it became quite easy to then find what you're meant to do, because it's quite daunting
Hmm.
at first. And player ID, and it was like the SANFL W Development League. So
Hmm.
the numbers were changing. You didn't have the photos and the pictures of what the girls looked like. And you're just learning everything for the first time. So
Hmm.
I think that was my introduction, finding that work experience through the SANFL. And because especially like I've always aspired to be like Abby Holmes and boundary ride and commentate, because I just love the game.
Hmm. Absolutely, absolutely love it. Again, I love Abby to death. I think she's done a fantastic job. She excels, and I absolutely love that about her. So, really quick, real quick question without notice, just because of the fun is that I've the same. Most of the normal podcasters know Phil Aspinall is one of my co-hosts, and I know he has spoken very, very highly of you. So, just could you tell me a little bit about your interactions with Phil? Because Phil is a fantastic caller. Absolutely love him to death. Maybe it's also because every time he calls that I know he knows I'm listening, he will give me a shout out, and I appreciate him so much for doing it. But just tell me a little bit about your involvement with Phil, because again, Phil, he's incredible caller and an incredibly passionate Sandful man.
I'll start giving you some shout outs to win the brownie points as well during the calls. But no, Phil is awesome. He's the way he meticulous with the information, and player ID is second to none. Preparation, and he's probably there was quite a few, Chris Kendall and all these other ones, Sam Tugwell through 5AA as well. Uh, Learning from everyone has been good to see how they all adapt, but it's nice when a commentator takes you under their wing and doesn't make you feel daunted, and by the experience, and especially as a female, allows you to have that voice, because that's probably the hardest thing, because you don't feel like you're allowed to speak as much as the men, or you don't know what you're talking about, because sometimes, not that any of the commentators have made me feel like that, but
Hmm.
it just is maybe a bit of the culture of football.
Hmm. Nope. 100% agree. Like I said, Phil is he's absolute legend. I know we've had a couple of sample snapshot episodes where he's literally messaging us 20 minutes before it starts. Boys, we got to be quick, and we got to be quick. I got to study for the next game. So he's very prepared. No, I love it. We mess with him a little bit on it, and I absolutely love it. But he is so quick with so many things. He's got great facts. Like I love some of the little facts that he comes up with, and so knowledgeable, such a warm individual. Absolutely love Phil to death. But so had to give Phil his shout out a little bit in the podcast. I know that he was super keen. He was super excited when he heard that you were gonna
Reciprocate it.
come when you were gonna come on the podcast for sure. He was super happy. He thought this would be great for you. So let's hop back into it. What's your favorite part about calling the footy?
You're almost the biggest fan there. You've got all the information, you've learnt the players, you know all about their history, how many goals they've kicked this season in their career, and depends how much you've been able to deep dive into it,
Hmm.
especially if you get the team sheets later that night. And if you're working, it's really hard to get all that information in. But you become the biggest fan with the most knowledge. And I think that's exciting to call it as it is. You see
Hmm.
two teams go at it, and you know, right, based on past performances, this is how they're matching up. And you can almost maybe predict who's going to win. But it's just fun to be in the moment and also create that picture for the audience.
Definitely, for sure. And with the way with words, with many of them, you weave a tapestry sometimes that's absolutely fantastic. So I know this
Mm,
is fun, especially for a game with such a big ground. What's the hardest part about calling the footy?
player ID. It is probably the most difficult, especially getting the team sheets. If you've had four changes, under 18s and under 16s, especially the SANFL, they can be quite difficult because you've got a lot of kids who are on scholarships. So they all have to play for school, and that could mean 10 of each team have had changes.
Hmm.
So you're immediately learning all these new players and you don't know what they look like. So you're rocking up to the oval early. You've got your binoculars and you're just like trying to be like, okay, blue boots, number 5. Okay, that's this person. And it's just, it's difficult. Uh, but it's kind of fun,
Hmm.
if that makes sense. Because,
No.
yeah, you just try your best and under pressure.
Hmm. I gotta do this. Another question without notice, but I can't not. Is it how quickly have you adjusted to calling with? Because I know the binoculars are one of the best things when it comes to helping player ID a little bit because you can see a little bit more. How quickly did you get used to calling with the binoculars? Because I know some people it takes a little bit to be able to talk and keep your focus with the binoculars.
That's a very good question. So I used to wear glasses. And then I realized getting the binoculars up to your face quickly and then knocking the glasses into your
Into your
face, and
face.
then I
Yep.
just couldn't see what was happening anymore. And so I actually got laser eye surgery. So, because I couldn't wear contacts, my eyes were too sensitive for that.
Mhm.
And so I was like, you know what, I want to make a career out of this. So I really invested in the future and that. So it's difficult. It's difficult to use the binoculars. And then when you're a little bit nervous or lots is going on, you get the shakes,
Mhm.
and then you've missed. It's hard. It's
Mhm.
it's really an art, but I'm still here trying to master it.
Yeah. Well, I wish you quick learning on that one because I have a friend of mine who I worked with USAFL Nationals, Peter Holden with Wharf, and he comes over and calls USAFL Nationals. I've sat with him and he's got the binoculars and he is pinpoint. It is so much fun to watch him work. I've literally one time
Oh,
I was standing next to him on we were on like a scaffolding, so we were a little bit higher. And I'm just literally and he's calling the game. I'm not even watching the game. I'm watching him watch the game. Like it is so cool to see. Up with the binoculars, knows everything, never misses a beat, never misses like, and he's right. And I'm watching it with him, but I'm almost watching him just as much. So it's always the fascinating part about the Aussie rules
yeah.
call is with the,
I
the
remember
vastness. Yeah.
my
Go ahead.
I remember my parents got, because they're like, you know what, we can see you're passionate about this. We'll get you a pair of binoculars. And so they got me bird watching ones, thinking, oh, they're great quality and they'll be fantastic for you. I could literally see into the hills. I could see a blade of grass. They
Hmm.
were so good, but I couldn't see the players. So I need to get ones that are only a little bit more zoomed in so I can still see the players around the ball, not a blade of grass or just the ball itself because they're so good quality. So I'm still looking if anyone's got good binocular recommendations where it's not fully zoomed in, but enough where I can see the players around the ball as well. That would be
Hmm.
appreciated.
That'd be fantastic. That'd be fantastic. Well, we need to look into inventing those. So, as you said a couple of times off this, is you've done boundary writing and now you are into calling. I want to have some fun. Is it more fun to be a boundary writer because you get to interact with the players, you get to listen to this, or do you actually enjoy the calling more?
They are both so incredibly different. And it's kind of like when you go from play by play, it's like, oh, boundary will be easy. You just come on, say a thing or two. And when I did my first boundary for Channel 7, that was for the SANFL W Grand Final. That was like a dream come true. John Casey helped me get there and was so supportive, and he's just such a great professional. And it was about learning. You're not looking at the play per se, you're looking at the bench and the interchange, and you're seeing the player movements on and off, injuries. And when I was doing a bit of, because I did a bit of work experience with 5AA, another calling radio station, and I sat down with one of them, and all of a sudden he comes on air and he's giving a report, and I'm like, oh, he's talking about I'm watching the game. Like, this is fantastic. How good's football? Best seat in the house. And I'm like, no, I need to be watching the bench. I need to be seeing who's getting injured, who's spending extra time in the hands of the physio. So it's a very different skill, play by play and boundary. I think boundary, you can have a bit more fun and a bit more relaxed. And if you get to speak with people, and that's fun, going out into the huddles, getting that knowledge that you can give back to the audience, which is really crucial. But they are both very, very different skill sets.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely for sure. But they're both very, very important in their own particular way. So I want to have some fun because I think we're all used to turning on the TV and watching the game or whatever. But I know with callers, you got to be there a little bit early. You got plenty of homework to do. So run me through a typical day
Mm-hmm.
for you as a caller. How early are you getting to the ground? How much are you talking with the coaches or trying to catch a player to kind of catch who's in, who's out, all that. So kind of run me through what your normal day of calling a game of footy is.
Well, I'm not going to be as early as Phil Aspinall. I don't think anyone can be there as early as him. He's there until the sun rises and as it goes down. So a credit to him. I like to probably, I don't want to be there too late because then I get really nervous because you want to be settled and know your position and get the team sheets. Probably an hour. I don't like being too much earlier than that because especially when you're talking to everyone, and if you need to do last minute changes, I like to be at home where I can do that myself and not get distracted by talking to my co-callers.
Mhm.
So probably an hour. And then when the teams come out and they do their warm ups, I'll start trying to get a little bit of ID if I have missed or if there's a new person in the team, just trying to make sure I've got their boots, if they've got strapping. Pronunciation's really important too. And then I'll head off to Champion Data. So they'll do all the stats and they'll get the team sheets. And so sometimes it's just easier to go to them because the coaches are busy and it's hard to get a team manager. And then we'll just take a screenshot of a photo of the team sheet. So then we're all good to go. We know the ins and outs. And that's probably about, yeah, 15 minutes before the game. And just like trying to keep as relaxed as possible because, yeah, it's more of a conversation and have a bit of fun with it.
Fantastic. Yeah. So Phil is an animal. I know I've seen many a message of him. It's like it's hour and a half before footy calls, and he's
Yeah.
sitting in the box
Oh, that's late.
looking. Oh yeah. He's probably taking that picture after
That's
he's been there for
awesome.
45 minutes. So love you, Phil. I know you're probably listening. Just absolutely love you to death. No,
Yes.
it's a lot of fun. No, I get it. So
Awesome.
I'm always one for this is the commentary that there's always something interesting when it comes to it. It is never exactly the same. No call is ever the same. Do you have a funny moment that has occurred while
Mhm.
calling the footy?
All the time. And it mostly happens with my maths. I mean, I did well in maths in year 12, so I can do the hard stuff.
Hmm.
But as soon as it's your six times tables and an old school scoreboard, when it's
Hmm.
manually done, you don't know if they've already started moving the numbers. And sometimes that app's a bit delayed. So it's like, is
Yep.
this the updated score?
Oh,
Oh,
yep.
you don't know. So you're trying to hold yourself back and you're like reloading, like
Hmm.
hoping maybe you can keep patting and that your co caller can help out a bit. But it's usually the maths that gets me and makes me look a little bit silly. But I promise I do know my six times tables. You just don't know if that's the correct score. And sometimes you just want to give a bit of help with the people on the scoreboard.
Yep. No, I totally get it. I've done that myself. I've looked down at the score, looked down at the score, go, okay, we're up 50, and then all of a sudden
Uh,
it changes. Like, oh shoot. So so it is not a problem. And trust me, I
yeah.
don't think there's too many gonna be going on to Twitter going, come on, Eden, why can't you do math? No, I don't think you have to worry about that too much, but it's a lot
I
of
can do
no.
algebra.
Yeah, we can do this. We're fine. So I'm always again, I love the funny stories, and I've like I said, I've heard some fantastic stories from several callers that I've actually had the pleasure of sitting down to. So again, you're very early into this, and again growing, and I think it's fantastic. I cannot wait to
Yes.
watch your growth in this. So tell me a story behind the mic, something that you'll always remember when it comes to being a caller.
Probably there's a couple that come to mind, and it's the first call with Tom Eglinton at Richmond Oval. That was definitely a fun experience. Again, we both, he had a bit of experience in race calling, I believe. And so it was just both of us on the mic, just giving it a red hot crack. You couldn't get more Australian than that. I feel like it's
Hmm.
just giving two people to go on and say whatever they want. But also this year, getting to call with Beck Northcott. And we became the first female commentary team at SANFL level. So that was a history making moment for us. And to do it alongside Beck was honestly, there's nothing that compares to two females calling, especially a women's game together.
Hmm. Yep, no, 100%. In fact, you took a little bit of the thunder of my next question because I wanted to sit here and I wanted to say let's chat some accomplishments because this young lady, like I
Mm.
said, as she just said, she is part of history when it comes to Sandful now and calling a game with two female callers. We've had games where we've had a Chrissy Steen or a Coach Norrell
Mm.
Smith who are technically special commentators. So they're not calling the game. They're giving their expertise on the game. So Beth Norcutt and Eden here were the first ever callers to both be callers calling the game. So, I mean, how amazing is this accomplishment? And did you guys realize that you were the first ever?
Yes, because everyone let us like know straight away. They're like, "This is a history making moment." So that was kind of daunting because it's you've got to live up to the moment and everything. But as soon as we both sat down, I remember Beck saying it was Good Friday, and she was like, "And it's a great Friday," and it really felt like it really was. She's just got an unparalleled knowledge of the W game, and to bounce off that with her and that passion, she like knows a lot of the girls because her sister plays with the Panthers, and she's like, oh yeah, people do like having us women on, even though we had never been together. She's like, no, people do like when we're commentating play by play, and I think that's really nice to hear as well because you don't know, you hear the negative feedback that other female commentators get, Kelly Underwood, and all these other ones who are just giving it a shot and trying
Hmm.
their best. And so when we just sat in the box together, it was so much fun. It was the best time.
Well, I will front of Mike a little bit too. I told Eden before we got started. I was actually listening to this game, had no idea about that particular history. I just was sitting down and I thought, you want to know what? Let's listen. And hearing Eden and Beck, I thought the call was fantastic. I thought you guys did absolutely magnificent. It was absolutely fantastic. Um, I had no idea until I was talking with Phil at our next Stanfield W call, and he told me he's like, yeah, he's like that's the first ever time they've had two female callers of the game, And I thought that was really cool that I listened to history and now I have the
Mm.
pleasure of sitting down with Eden. But that's not the only history that Eden has, is that now she's joined Wharf Radio and she's part of the most female callers that Wharf Radio has ever had. So, I mean, you just keep finding a way to keep having these fantastic accomplishments.
Oh, I'm so glad I reached out to Phil Hurd and I was like, look, I need my footy fix. I need to keep commentating because, especially when the men's ends and then there's quite a long gap before next year. And I'm like, this is perfect. It's the W season and it's AFLW. I need to keep going and develop my skills, hone them, because otherwise it's a 6 month or so gap to
Hmm.
go without football. So I was just like, you know what, I'm going to give it a shot. And on the boundary, had a blast. Like, I absolutely love the boundary. Again, it's a very different expectation, and in terms of you don't need to learn the names as thoroughly, which is sometimes nice when you've got work all through the week and it's really hard to find time. You it's service if you don't know the players as well. But to be able to do that game last week, I believe, or a couple of weeks ago, where I got the call up on Thursday night, I was going to do boundary, and basically said, "Do you want to do play by play?" We've had someone pull out, and I was just like, "Yeah, yeah, I do," because how incredible and what an honour to be able to call a women's game as a female and to be given that voice.
It's fantastic. I remember seeing the press release, and then I thought it was cool. And then conveniently, another behind the mic is that Eden reached out not too long after I saw that, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so awesome. So it has been a it has been a great few weeks when it comes to it. Like I said, all plaudits to Eden here. She's been, again, I love that she's trying to progress her things, but we'll go one more, is that as you said, you got to boundary ride for Channel 7 for the SANFL W Grand Final. Again, I want you to go through the pageantry of this because I was up at 11:40 at night to watch this game live, because these two, South Adelaide and Woodville West Torrens, had crackers during the season. Absolutely loved it. Was the
Mm-hmm.
grand final exactly what I wanted it to be? I will say this, no, it wasn't. But an incredible experience, an incredible game of football. Again, Rick Watson South and South Adelaide, again, they are the queens of the SANFL W, but all plaudits to the Woodville West Torrens. But run me through that, because again, you are on state TV, you are on Channel 7 doing Boundary Ride. What an experience for you. Tell me a little bit about it, because that had to have been so much fun as a South Australian.
It was my first time ever doing it. So to literally step up to Channel 7, knowing that while I've commentated these two teams like 3 times in the past 5 weeks, because with how the fixture worked, they were playing each other and in the finals series. So what actually happened was John Casey was doing the best and fairest voiceover. And I remember he was speaking to the chief of staff at Channel 7 to go for like learning pronunciations and just like, oh, how do I pronounce this name? And he goes, oh, Edon commentates the SANFL. Oh, I'm going to go over to Edon and ask, is it Lutzi? Is it
Hmm.
Lutzi? Because there's different ways to pronounce it. And especially, I think the SANFL had like a pronunciation sheet, but how we actually are meant to pronounce it is different.
Hmm.
And so I just sat down with him and I'm like, yep, that's Lutzi, that's Martino, that's and XYZ. And he's like, oh, we should have you on. And I was like, yes. I was like, yes, please. Like, this is the biggest achievement that would ever happen in my life. And so I went a couple of weeks after that weekend, I was like, I'm going to shadow John and see how he does it. And because he knows I do play by play, he was, yeah, the biggest motivator in that and got me all involved. And I was very nervous because I knew that this was a huge opportunity. This is what I wanted to do. And at that moment, it's imposter syndrome, thinking, am I capable of doing this? I just had to back myself in. and I knew the players. I've commentated them probably 3 times that season. Unfortunately, it's not the game that we were hoping for. I mean,
Hmm.
South are just way too good. They were so good. And the Eagles, just with that youth and probably
Hmm.
inexperience, weren't able to compete
Yep.
on the day. And it was meant to be a real howler. It was meant to be raining and windy.
Hmm.
And it turned out to be quite a nice day. So I think it was just like actually the best experience ever
Yeah.
to be able to commentate, and especially SANFL W, these teams that I've been following all year.
Hmm. No, I'm 100% with you. I completely agree. It was the game. Was it the game that we wanted? Absolutely not. I also say the ground condition wasn't exactly ideal. I think the Eagles with their ability to move the footy would have loved a better
Mm.
deck, and I think that really helped South Adelaide a lot. And then with their youth, as you said, once they got down, you could kind of tell South Adelaide, they knew what they were doing. They've been here before, and the
Oh,
lack of experience, you could tell. And I talked with Norel, and Norel was very, very honest. She goes, "Yep." She goes, we had our bad day. We had our bad day at the worst possible time." And I told her
mm-hmm.
after it. I said, and she completely agreed. I said, you are aware. I said, this is only going to help your girls because now they have that fire in their belly going into next year that they've been to the mountaintop and just got knocked down a little bit. So it's going to be fun to watch.
Oh, you've got those players like Imogen Trendgrove who are like,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yep. Yep.
unbelievable.
Yep.
And
Faulkner's
even Claudia
another one.
O'Neill,
Yep.
yes,
Yep. Love
O'Neill as a
Love
defender
Claudia.
and
Yep.
then getting switched to be a forward.
Yep. Yep. And Claudia had a hanger, had a howler that day. She could not kick straight for her life. And
Yes,
that was the frustrating part for me
no.
because she's such a good forward, so accurate most of the time. And
Mm,
that first one went, you could kind of see the wheels, like the squirrel in the back of her head just going a little bit too fast. And the next one, when it did, you could tell it threw her off. And so they'll be fine.
yes,
And I told
and
Narelle, I
bounce
said,
back.
if I'm Rick Watts, I'm shaking your hand because this season could have been a runaway for South Australia for South Adelaide if it weren't
Mm,
for you guys. You really pushed them. I said I think next year these two it's going to be some titanic matchups between those two next year,
yeah.
100%.
And
So,
Narelle is such a brilliant coach as
oh
well.
yes,
So
yes,
I think
love
that
her.
was unbelievable to see.
Yeah,
She's so good in her knowledge.
yeah.
I'm just like, next year, I'm just so excited to see what the Eagles can do.
Yep, yep, yep. 100, I'm 100% with you. Like I said, I love Narelle. I've sat there and talked with her. She's been on the podcast covering the AFLW and her knowledge and her experience. I
Mm.
absolutely love sitting and talking with her because I sit here sometimes just listening to her and I'm in awe because she's such a legend. She's such a legend, not only in the female side of the game, but just in footy general. She's just the knowledge
Yes.
that Narelle has is absolutely insane. So cannot wait. She's got her Eagles up and about. I love the style of footy that they play. So I cannot wait for next year. I mean, next season cannot come fast enough for me. So I know that
No.
again, you're still early, you're still very early in your career. And I think looking at it and listening to all of these great opportunities that you have, I think we could see a very long career for you. So I'm going to ask this. We've got Abby Holmes. We've got Kate McCarthy that are making impact in the AFL and the AFLW. Would you ever consider moving up and calling the top, the AFL or the AFLW? Or are you going to want to stay in South Australia and be around the SANFL and the SANFL W?
For me, the pinnacle is the AFLW and AFL. Not to say that the SANFL, I still want to be getting involved as much as possible because the SANFL is really special. Some of the best talent in Australia comes out through that system. So I think, especially while I'm young, it's just about doing whatever I can, especially at state level, building up through that pathway. But it would be a dream to do anything AFL and AFLW. And even when I was calling with Beck, I love listening to her and just asking about where she wants to go. And usually everyone immediately is like, oh, so when do you want to be calling the AFL or when do you want to be calling the SANFL? And she's like, I love the SANFL W. Like, that's the pinnacle for me.
Hmm.
And so it's like realizing every competition and league has got so much meaning to everyone and so much value. So while the AFL I want to be there, but also women as well. So
Mhm.
AFLW. And I think that's what's the beauty is that now that the season kind of goes longer with the AFLW on the back end of the men's, you can keep doing it. So it's not
Mhm.
as much of that gap. It'd go crazy without footy.
No, 100%. I know. I when I asked Phil said he'd prefer to stay in the SANFL. And again, everybody is different, and I absolutely think it's awesome. Again, like I said, I cannot wait for that day. Crossing my fingers. Hopefully, it happens that I can hear you calling an AFLW or calling an AFL game and be able to go. I know her. I had her on the podcast. I really hope
Oh,
for that
thank
day
you.
very soon, Eden. So we've broached the subject of the AFL. So I mean, it's always I know it's part of Australian culture, especially in the football states. I gotta ask,
Yes,
do you support an AFL side? And if so, who is it?
the Crows. And now that's always, it's either the Crows or Port. And it's almost
I never
the first
assume. I
question.
never assume because I
Yeah,
have known some South Australians that have Victorian ties or all that. So I never assume. So that's why I ask it the way I do.
it's almost like the deal breaker. It's like
Yep.
Crows or Port. And then it's like an immediate bias. Like, you
The
know, we're
split. Yep, I know.
separate. Yeah, because my boyfriend's a Port supporter. And it's like, well, dear, oh dear, that's tense. No, but
Showdown
it's
evenings
fine.
must be
It's
fun at the household, huh?
But you know what? Go footy. And I know people
I agree.
hate that. They're like, no, no, the Magpies. And especially with the history that Port has had.
Yep.
And then oh, it's a real hatred between the two clubs. But I think I just love the sport. And even though, yes, I get the hatred, I get the anger, the competition, the rivalry, but I just love watching the sport and what it brings. And I guess as a female as well, being involved in such a competitive sport and league is just like the best thing ever. So yes, I was always Crows growing up, but that's also because my family were Crows. So thank very much. Whatever your family is, you follow in their league.
Well, I will tell you this, not to break from that, but one of my first years, my Port supporter was born into a Crows family and decided he wanted to be the black sheep. So he's the only one in his family that is a Port supporter and says that he's constantly absolutely ribbing the crap out of his family when Port wins or when Port's playing better than the Crow. Yeah, I love him to death. Dave Werner, he does the Creed podcast and I talk with him all the time. Love Dave to
Wonder
death.
how he's feeling about this year then. I feel like his team, his family's won on him on that.
A little, and that's the fun part about it. I've said it numerous times in the point. My personal opinion, I think all showdowns, especially in the men's, should be Friday night footy, clear air,
Oh,
nothing else, because
yeah.
the vitriol between not only the fan bases but even the players sometimes, in many ways, it's captivating. Like I cannot, when a showdown is on and I can watch it, I sat there with a bag of popcorn just watching it because the interactions, like the Josh Rochelle, the comment about the Port
Oh,
fans, and then the
yes.
teeth thing, the get after the mongrel between the two is absolutely scintillating. Absolutely love it to death. So no, I'm 100% with you. I love the footy. I've said it to many a Victorian. I said currently, in my personal opinion, I think the showdown is the best rivalry in the AFL right now because every time these two play, it is a cracking game.
And it's so much more than just football in
Yep,
terms of AFL.
yep,
It goes deep into the history and who came
yep,
first, and there's so much more passion and bite
yep.
compared to other Victorians, say with Collingwood and Carlton.
Yep. Yep. Tons of years, but the mongrel between the two I don't think will ever change between those two, and especially being a
Nope.
two team state, I think makes it even better. So I want to let you have some fun. So your thoughts on the Crow season this year, because I mean, incredible. Finishes top of the ladder after finishing 15th, but unfortunately the finals the banana skin, a little bit of drama outside of it. You
Yeah.
don't have to comment on that if you don't want to, but just your thoughts on the Crow season this year because I've heard some people it's a successful season. You finish first, but then there's some people that the way they kind of whimpered out of the finals kind of leaves a bad taste in your mouth.
Yeah, it's kind of a bittersweet season. Definitely wasn't expecting to be minor premiers. A final push would have been what you would expect from after missing out the previous year. So I don't even know how that happened. Are we frauds? Oh, I don't know. I think we got a bit lucky with how we ended up on top of the ladder. Because especially with finals, I mean, yes, you lose Isaac Rankin and all that, but you got to step up on the biggest stage, even despite if you've got people out. So do other clubs. So they just and we had a home. We were playing at home. We had two home finals, so
Mhm.
there's not really much excuse, and it's up to the players and the coaches at the end of the day to not crumble under that pressure, and they did.
Unfortunately, again, I have many a Crow supporter. Again, South Australia. Can't tell you how many people I know in Adelaide. I joke with I could probably couch surf through half of Adelaide when it comes to it because I have so many friends down there with SANFL W, AFL friends and all that. So no, it was very fascinating listening to people's takes because there were many that were
Mm,
like they kind of did that. They were like, were we imposters? I don't think you were imposters. I think you were great. I just think the finals footy, there was so much put into the rankings. Again, we won't go into the minutia
yeah,
of it. I think so much was put into the ranking situation that I think it zapped the group. And then the Collingwood game just you never really got going. I don't know what it was. There was something, I don't know. Riley Thilthorpe couldn't catch a cold. I don't know why he was having issues. I mean, Tex was
yeah,
probably the reason that game stayed close for as long as it was. So I don't know. And then Hawthorn, they were playing some great footy. There was
mm,
such a the balloon had already been kind of had all the air shoved out of it. The Hawthorn game just kind of I think he just ran out of petrol tickets. Like I
yeah,
hate saying it that way, but that's kind of the way it feels. I don't think you were an imposter. It's happened. Teams
mm.
have went out straight sets. It happens. Sometimes straight sets can focus you for the next season. So I'm
We were very
fascinated.
young.
Yes, that too.
So I think that's
Yeah.
that inexperience, and I don't know if they went about it the right way in terms of having all the fun because it was lots of we're going to play with fun, and next week we took the previous week too seriously. Now we've got to play with fun. So
Yep.
then you notice like the poking out of the tongue by Riley Thilthorpe during
Yep.
the anthem, and all these little tricks that Rochelle's walking in with a beard, and all
Yep.
things like that. It's like, oh, I think I don't know if it's obviously when they did play with fun, they still didn't win. So there's more, especially
Mhm.
stepping up in those really tough moments that they needed
Yep.
to, yeah, do better in.
Yeah, we'll have to see again. I'm fascinated to see how the Crows respond. I mean, I think Nick's did a fantastic job. There's a few things they'll have to tighten up, a few changes, but again, I think the
Yeah.
Crows will still they'll be there when the whips are cracking again next year. Cannot wait. So somebody is again, you called the SANFL W. We got to talk AFLW, and as you said, you keep track of it again. I love that so many people, and unfortunately, sometimes there's a lot of people that don't like to watch the AFLW, but
Mm,
I absolutely adore it.
I love that.
It is fantastic.
Yeah.
I've said it numerous times. I think the women go harder at the footy than the men do,
Yeah.
and I'm not afraid to say that because I've seen some heavy collisions in this. So really
And they're just
quickly,
so happy to be playing football. And
oh
I
yeah,
think you
oh
can see
yes,
that they've been finally given the opportunity to play.
yep,
And you can, when they're playing on the field, they're so, yes, I think they're a lot more competitive. Um, they want to win, they'll do everything because they're finally, after
mhm,
years and years, and people don't realize like Auskick's a thing, but then
yep,
you go 10 years without playing football. Well, I know, and I'm 24, so I'm still quite young, but those 10 years are where you learn how to kick, how to handball, and but you
mhm.
miss that. So, especially now with that younger fleet coming up, it's the skills are getting so much better. Yeah, it grinds my gears when people compare it too much to the AFL because I don't know what they're expecting.
Well, I've said it numerous times. I said you can't compare them because the only way you compare the AFLW to the AFL, you'd have to compare it to like 1908 because that's like 10 years into the whole thing. So it's not comparable. But I'll sit here and say this, the growth is astronomical if you look at
Yes.
it. This year's draft class has just absolutely showed out. In fact, what I love about this is I'm talking to a Crow supporter and we are on the eaves, very close to a fortnight away from the showdown in the women. And I think it is going to be an absolute cracker Cannot
Yes.
wait. I think this could be the most competitive showdown
And
ever.
Friday Night Lights. Not
Exactly that
Oval.
too.
Oh,
So really, really quickly, tell me about your thoughts on this AFLW season because I think anybody that talks AFLW knows. I mean, North is North this year. Let's just be
yeah.
honest.
Untouchable.
I don't think anybody that's been watching AFLW this season will sit here and say, I mean, North look damn near unbeatable. I don't think they are unbeatable. I think they can be,
Mm,
but it is going to take a special performance by the team that's going to beat them. And I'll say it, an especially bad performance by North for that to happen because they're so deep, they're so good,
yes.
they're so consistent. And it seems like they can lose Jazzy Garner and they're still going to win.
Yes. I completely agree. And especially, I think, because the AFLW's changed so much, the Crows are very much about their OGs and their veterans, and they'll stay very core in terms of that group. But now all these younger players are getting really awesome, and now that we've got people coming in from interstate playing with these teams, so you kind of see other teams are getting better than them because it's just a melting pot of all this different talent. And so then when you think about like the Crows and even Port coming up, that's going to be a great game.
Mhm.
And I feel like whoever that intensity, because it would be great football. Both teams will lift pressure and everything. They need to treat when they play North. They need to treat it like it's a showdown or like finals
Mhm.
football because they need to. Yeah, but North are just too good. I don't even know if either Adelaide team at the moment. Yeah, it would take a bad day from North, but after last week's performance with Port taking on Hawks and winning, and Hawks were second on the ladder. So if they get their day and get Indy kicking five or kicking more than a bag,
Mhm.
could they overthrow them?
Well, I will say this. Yes, the Crows, a lot of their premiership talent is gone. Most of the triple premiership players are not there. I think the last time I heard that, I think there's only like five when it comes to it.
Mm,
But the revamp, I love the revamp. I mean, you've got amazing South Australian talent that you've been watching. Brooke Boyle, Indy Rashid,
mm,
Christina Lutzi comes in this year. I getting into that Crows midfield is damn near impossible. So seeing Christina get a shot this year has been
yes.
fantastic. But then I look over at Port and I look at all that South Australian talent: Matilda Schultz, Piper Window, Lauren Young, Shanae Goody, OMG, Molly Brooksby. I
Yeah.
don't want to leave her out. I know a few Norwood people are like, Molly. So I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at this and I just absolutely adore how Adelaide has handled it, and how Adelaide and Port Adelaide have handled it because they've tried to keep some of the best girls in the state. But I will say this, I think the national draft is going to be beneficial for everybody. I know losing Grace Martin to GWS, that had to suck because she's been
Mm,
fantastic over at GWS. But I love Holly Eifold being out at Fremantle, seeing some of these really talented South Australian girls getting more of an opportunity because when you had
yes.
the state-based drafts, I mean, really, it was a couple were coming in, and you're getting this backlog of talent. Elaine Grigg,
Hmm.
I was like trying to sit here going, I know there's another one. Elaine Grigg over at the Western Bulldogs, the Central District superstar, who I absolutely adore. Elaine, absolutely adore
Yes.
what she's done. Just I love it for the girls from South Australia now to be able to go throughout the country and to be able to play and show their talent because I'm
Yes.
not even gonna lie. I sit here, I watch the Waffle, I watch the VFL, I watch the SANFL. Some of the SANFL competition has some of the best youngsters coming. I know Victoria wants to claim that, but I'm sitting here looking at it going, number one overall pick a few years ago. Some of the best in the country are coming out of South Australia. So it is
Yes,
so
and a lot
much.
of them don't get picked up. You think
Yep.
about Jess Bates and
Yep.
all these stalwarts of the competition who would easily dominate on an
Shelby
AFLW
Smith
list.
is another one. I would have
Oh,
loved to see her at W because she was absolutely she is
built
the
for it.
I hate doing the comparison, but I'm going to say it. She is Libba as a female player. She could get the footy no matter what and always found a way to get it to her teammates. Love Shelby Smith.
Hmm.
Zoe Venning is another one.
Yes.
it's so frustrating sometimes seeing some of this
Yeah, we want to be the
incredible talent.
scouters, like
Oh
put it
yeah,
forward,
oh
especially
yeah,
the
oh yeah.
commentators. We're like,
Well,
these people, they're so good
yeah,
with how they use the ball.
And Jess had her run with Collingwood VFL, and I honestly I thought that was her go to Victoria. She'll get looked at by the Victorian clubs, and that'll be her opportunity. And unfortunately, it didn't work. Again, Jess is a magnificent human being. I've chatted with her on the podcast. I keep tabs with her. Her retirement kind of caught me by surprise, shall we say, because
Mm,
she's been playing such magnificent football. Just absolutely a treasure to watch. I'm going to be sad not being able to see her, but
yeah.
she wants to move on with life. That's perfectly fine. I know she'll stay involved with football because she loves the game too much to get out of it. But no. So now that we've had that, in fact, let's have some fun. Let's go to it as the South Australian. Let's talk SANFL and SANFL W because we'll start with the W. South Adelaide get another premiership, but I think the darlings this last year was Woodville West Torrens again. What Narelle Smith did this year was incredible. But I have to say, though, I'm a little disappointed this year because Norwood and Glenelg, two teams that I honestly thought were finals teams, potential flag contenders, dipped down towards the bottom of the ladder this year.
Mm. The Eagles was really a shock and a circuit breaker for them. So they made their first
I
final
will not I
series.
will not say it was a shock. I said the year before I thought they could make finals. I was not expecting them to be minor premiers and have the season that they did. I will
Yes.
I don't know. Maybe it was my belief in Norell, but this previous season I thought they were a couple of bounces away from making finals and it just got them. I thought another year under Norell, they had a chance to make finals this year.
Yeah.
Like I said, just was not expecting minor premiers and only lose two
Yeah,
games in the
first in their
entire
first
season.
final series,
Exactly.
unbelievable
Yep.
how they've managed to do that. It's just a credit to Norel and the girls.
Yep.
And yes, like we said, they're such a young group. But then when you look at the Panthers, when the chips are down, they really get to work.
Yep.
They've played Jaslyn Smith, who's played 4 premierships,
Hmm.
all with South Adelaide. So that's just unbelievable experience. I mean, you can't look past that. You've got all these players who've back to back now, and they know how to cope under that pressure. Where, yeah, you look at the Eagles, so young, probably had the chance, and yeah, you just can't really compete with a team that's just so well drilled.
No, 100%.
But
But
so are the Eagles.
yeah, no, I think the Eagles are a year ahead. I think they're a year ahead of where yeah, even Norel was kind of surprised with how well they did this year. You could kind of tell when I talked with her. She was overjoyed they got to the finals, but she was understanding of it. Like I said, I think they were a year early. So again, next year, Rick Watts, Norel Smith, the Woodville West Torrens South Adelaide games, I think are going to be absolute. They
Yes,
are must watches next year for sure. And then let's go to the men's season. I mean, Sturt. Let's just that's the story of the season. Sturt were
yes.
incredible this season.
The best team won. It's
Yeah.
usually how, not always the football is best team wins, but it usually gets the grand final and then it's really an even 50-50. But they just were way too good. I mean, to have that undefeated streak as well,
Hmm.
a force to be reckoned with, and to be able to cap it off with a premiership, I mean, you beauty. They would like that one on top of Brickworks as well, so they've gotten the flag high.
Yep, definitely for sure. It was a shocker that loss late in the season. I was like, really, Sturt, really? But in the
Yeah.
long run, they got the accomplishment that they really wanted, and that was the flag at the end. So, Eden, I absolutely love this, but I always want to have some fun here. Okay, I have 3 questions to end that I always end my interviews with, and I want you to put your fan hat on for just the tiniest bit.
Okay.
As I tell everybody, I have not been over to Australia yet. It is on my
Ah,
bucket
come
list.
on.
I know, and you are not the only one that has ever responded to me that way. I know I have several South Australians that have said, Donnie, when you get in, I got your first beer and we're going to the footy. And I go, you beauty,
I love
I
that.
cannot wait.
I love that.
So when you're sitting in the stands, I want you again, be your fan now, not your commentator, not your boundary rider,
Okay.
as a
Okay.
fan. When you go to the footy, what's your go-to food at the football?
A greasy burger and chips. And a Coke Zero. I don't drink, but a crisp Coke Zero with ice. I mean, ooh, on a hot day or even if it's a cool night, just does the trick.
Yep. So, all right, well, you got the chips in there because the most common two answers that I get are hot chips or the footy pie. or the meat pie?
Yeah, I've never had a footy pie. That's un-Australian of me, I feel like, but
Don't say that. Don't say that. That's
oh,
it's not all. It's not if you're a vegetarian, it makes sense. It's to each their
yeah,
own.
we'll say that I'm
I
vegetarian even though
yeah.
I'll eat a burger.
I just you got to have a little bit of fun with it. No, I don't like saying somebody's on Australian. You're Australian. You're born there. You're happy to be there. You love the sport of Aussie rules football. I've had a friend of mine tell me I deserve a Australian passport because for the
Yeah.
grand final every year in the AFL, I make Aussie meat pies over here.
Do you
Yep.
really? Wow, that's an
Grand final
honor.
evening, about 2 hours before first bounce, I make Aussie meat pies for the grand final.
Are there such thing as a meat pie over in America? Like an actual bakery
Not
meat pie?
no, not really.
Oh,
We have pot pies, which are basically like putting a stew into like a chicken pot pie or something like that. We don't get the meat pie, the Aussie meat pie over here. So I
yeah.
no, I
A
make them.
potato pie is an elevated meat pie. Now that's a bit bougie. Tomato sauce on top. Now that is sensational. But maybe
Mhm.
start with the meat pie. See how you go first.
Yeah, no, I've like I said, I've for the last 4 years, I started with the grand final in 2021. I actually made breakfast pies. And then I thought, you want to know what? I'm going to be a full Australian here. The only thing I don't have is a beer. I'm not a big drinker like you, so I don't. So and plus the game starts at like 11:30, so I usually have an energy drink to get me through it. Not that it really affects, but so that's kind of. But I had a friend of mine from Perth who told he's like, Donnie, you need a passport because you make me you're more Australian than some
Yeah.
Australians I know. So all right, so done with
You'll
my
have the best
tangent.
time here.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I joke I could probably couch surf through about 2/3 of the country without ever having to pay for a hotel because I have friends. I think the Northern Territory is the only one I don't have somebody that I'm pretty sure if I go, hey, I'm gonna be in town, can I like crash at your place? I'm pretty sure the Northern Territory is the only place I don't have anybody currently right now. Queensland,
Yeah.
Brisbane, Gold Coast, Sydney. Again, as a Swan supporter, I've got so many there. I can't even count.
What about Tassie?
Tassie, yep, I have a Tassie mate of mine who actually sent up a he sent me a package that was all Aussie snacks like burger rings,
Big fans.
twisties, Tim Tams, all sorts of fun stuff that I showed to some of my friends up here, and they're like, "What is this?" And I'm like, "It's an
A
Australian
burger
snack."
ring?
Yeah, a burger ring. Yeah,
Vegemite?
Tim Tams tend to be the one. That's the one thing I have. I've had it before, but nobody told me about it. That was a fun. I'll tell you after the podcast the fun story about that. So we'll reel it
Please
in,
do.
Coach. Reel it in. All right. So as we'll go back to it. So again, we have our fan hat on. Tell me where when you go to
Yes.
the footy, whether let's say the Adelaide Oval, where is your ideal place to sit to watch the footy?
I can't, honestly, I know this isn't a fan hat, but in the commentary box up there when I did work experience, that was almost, I wasn't working, so I would say I went as a fan. The best place to sit, you get the full atmosphere of the
Hmm.
crowd, you hear all the members because you're on the members wing, and just how the stadium rocks. And sometimes, like especially Adelaide Oval, because the fans, when it's a showdown, I can't remember what game it was, but I remember like the actual stadium rocking. And when you're up there, it's terrifying because you're like, I hope these structures can actually hold up. This is the true test. But that's probably, or even, yeah, members just being in amongst the fans.
Hmm. All right. And then my last question that I always ask, I'm putting together a list because this I've had some absolute ripping ones on here and I've actually found some of them. Favorite game of footy you have ever seen, whether you were at the ground, live, on the TV, women's, men's, doesn't matter. Favorite game of football you have ever seen.
Ooh, that's a really tricky one. I think watching St Kilda this year and watching that performance, if we're talking about a performance from one player, Zaya Wanganeen Miller. Now that's
Mhm.
just, especially in the current day and age, where one player really taking the team on his back and leading it. that was an unbelievable performance. And to go further with that, Jess Webster delivering that call,
Hmm.
that was probably the most inspirational moment. I actually reached out to her, like with that post call, she was putting it up on social media, and I've spoken to her once before, like with the uni project, and I just said that it almost made me feel emotional, just with how she delivered it and calling one of the biggest moments in AFL history, and it was all her.
Hmm.
I
I
think
was
it was the best game.
I will tell you, I will tell you this. I said it when I did the round review. I had not planned on watching that game. That game started at like 2 in the morning, and I don't know what was going on for me, but I was up, and I remember going to the fourth quarter,
Was
going,
your body telling you the footy gods?
I guess I don't know, but all I know is all of a sudden the fourth quarter started and St. Kilda began that comeback, and I was ready to go to bed, and I was like, there was some part of me that was like, no, not yet. You need to see this. I don't know what it was. It was this weird premonition, I guess. And then that happened. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like I was sitting there stunned. I remember after the game just looking, going, did I just see that? Like it was almost like the Nick Davis call in the 2005 semifinal. I see it, but I don't believe it type of moment. And
Yeah.
then hearing Jess Webster's call, and
Oh,
I remember just going, Jess, that was fantastic. That was an
yeah.
incredibly
It's giving me chills, like
perfect
thinking about it.
call. And I will say this. I absolutely adored the call. I thought the call was fantastic. She did a magnificent job. I heard that
Yeah.
the Channel 7 call was really good, but it was almost over. It was almost over the top. Like the way she delivered the line after like the Saints go marching, it was absolutely perfection. So no, I 100% agree.
Oh,
That was
it's
my
giving
game
me
of
chills just
yeah,
thinking about it.
that was
Yeah.
my game of the year this year because you can't what Nazaya did at the end in those last probably 7 minutes was insane. I mean, especially the hanger to tie the game and then to have the wherewithal to calm yourself at the center circle when you realized you were going to get the 6-6 and to be able to come up with a plan that would work. And then Rowan Marshall's kick, I mean, it had to be picture perfect. And it was. And for him to slot it, he only needed a point. They were going to win the game as long as he scored. But for him to slot it dead center, absolutely, that was absolutely chef's kiss.
Oh,
Well,
it's poetry in motion.
100%. Well, Eden, this has been a fantastic conversation. I'm sitting here smiling. I'm enjoying it. Your love for footy is very obvious, and I absolutely love it. As somebody that been told numerous times how an American can be so passionate about a sport that's thousands of kilometers away is fun. So to see that passion that I see on myself sometimes on the camera and to see it in you, it's incredible. So thank you so much for sitting down and having a chat with me. This has been an incredible conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for asking me. It's a privilege and it's an honor to be. I'm like, why me? Why me? But I really, really appreciate it. And what you're doing is incredible. And your passion for the sport makes me even more inspired and driven to commentate because I see the passion that it does bring to fans and how much it means to them as well. So thank you. It means the world.
Well, it is absolutely fantastic. And if it doesn't mess up with your job on Channel 7, I would love to have you on to help me review in future episodes. If you would be keen, I would love to have you. Um, I maybe even see if we can talk with Phil and have you on a SANFL show because I think that'd be fantastic to have you
Ooh,
on there. So if you'd be willing, I would love to extend that invitation to you that I'd love to be able to have you
absolutely.
hop on as a co-host for any of those shows because I think like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed, I think the 20, 30 minutes that we had before the podcast even started was so
Yeah.
much fun to sit there and talk footy and to kind of to chat a little bit, which had been fantastic. Well, I'm going to wrap this up so that this isn't a 2 hour podcast. So ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it
Oh,
for another episode of Donnie's Disposals. Again, if you like the way this old American is talking to footy, please like and subscribe and keep an eye out. Again, we are getting close to the end of the W season and then my off-season supporter series. Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be talking with female footy fans. I want to talk to some of the most avid female fans, find out their experiences, why they love this sport. all the things that they love about the game of Australian rules football. I cannot wait. I've got many, many lined up and some great stories that I cannot wait to share. So that will be it for this episode of Donnie's Disposals, and we'll be back with more footy coverage very, very soon.